This is a fun one. The Oregon Classic. Little platypus action. You got a beaver, you got a duck. I just call it the Platypus Bowl. I'm still trying to get that to have some traction, but regardless, Oregon is favored by 3 as they go to Corvallis. Now, a tricky place to play. Johnathan Smith done a really good job as the head coach there. In a relatively short amount of time, he's turned around that program. Now, in a shorter amount of time, Oregon and Dan Lanning, they got this thing humming right now. And Oregon, I think, is a sleeping giant. And as Dan Lanning continues to grow that program, a lot of good things are coming their way. But as it pertains to this game, I think Oregon is in a really good spot. They showed a ton of grit last week getting that win against Utah in a spot that really could have been a letdown for them, in a spot where nobody would have blamed them to have a letdown after they lost to Washington. Showed a lot of character and showed me how far along that culture is under Dan Lanning. I promise you, they have all their attention focused on Oregon State. Because Oregon, fighting for their own Pac-12 title appearance. They would love, and the folks in Eugene know this, they would absolutely love to see USC in that Pac-12 title game. Now, for Oregon State, this would make their year. And that's not to, little bro Oregon State by any stretch of the imagination. I'm just saying, if you can beat your rival, of course that means a ton. But to upset, and upset's maybe the wrong word, they're favored by 3 points, but to ruin Oregon's postseason aspirations and be the reason why they're not able to go to the Pac-12 title game and to have a footnote in that story, I promise you, that would do wonders for momentum around Corvallis and the direction of that program. Maybe the in-state conversation becomes maybe a touch more interesting for those recruits and someone deciding between Oregon and Oregon State. So bottom line, there's no love lost between these teams. I mean, this rivalry is as serious as it gets. I'll just leave it at that. First question, what's the sense of urgency that Oregon can create within Oregon State? Because Oregon State, they're a blue-collar operation, man. They're going to run the football. They're throwing it like 39% of the time. They're going to grind it out. They're going to put the ball on the ground, not, literally in the sense of a fumble, but they're going to run the football consistently and make you say, uncle. That's who they want to be. Now, when does that become difficult to do? It becomes difficult to do when the other team's scoring a lot of points. You can only, push so much on the ground as long as you're able to score points. We'll talk about more of that in a second. But Oregon's scoring right around 40 a game. So they're going fast. Like, it's sort of the yin and yang situation here. Oregon's going to score a lot of points. And when they create that urgency, is there any sense of panic from Oregon State? Maybe panic's the wrong word, but is there urgency to the point where you get outside of the game that you're comfortable playing? You start to throw the football a little bit more. You start to do some things you haven't done before. And when you start to press, you and I both know that creates mistakes. When you create mistakes, give a team like Oregon more ammo, it's just a bad situation. Oregon's going to make you pay if you make mistakes. And so for Oregon State, being able to play their game is crucial, but do they press at all? Does Oregon score enough points early, they jump out to a 14-point lead to create that sense of urgency, that negative sense of urgency? Something to watch for. Second thing that I'm looking at, can the Beavers answer scores? Because like we were already saying a second ago, being able to play their game is so crucial to the style of this game. And Oregon's gonna push the tempo, like I just said. Now, the only way that you get outside of yourself is if you get down. And if they get down, that would mean they're not answering scores. So I think it's very important, especially in the early going. This first quarter may tell the story of the outcome of this game. Can Oregon State go score for score? And it doesn't have to be the same kind of fashion. Like if Oregon hits a 40-yard bomb in the first 30 seconds of the game, Oregon State can't afford to say, okay, we got to do that now. No. Oregon State continue to play their kind of power brand of football. Like I said, blue-collar operation. Take 5 to 10 minutes off the clock if that's what you're able to do and able to just kind of keep Bo Nix watching on the sideline. That would be the kind of game that Oregon State needs to be able to play. Now, it's only good if you're answering scores. And when I say answer scores, I don't mean field goal for touchdowns. You can't trade 3 for 7 week in and drive in and drive out with this program. Just not something that's going to work. Oregon State knows it. Oregon knows it. It's no secret. Okay? So, being able to answer scores with touchdowns, go haymaker for haymaker, that's going to keep this thing tight. Keep it in close proximity for Oregon State. So, here's the deal for me. From a matchup perspective, I just think Oregon is too multiple. And that's not to knock Oregon State. I just think Oregon can fight whatever style this game ends up being. Hey, we need to throw the ball a lot. We can do that with Bo Nix and company. We got to run it. We've done it all year. Our offensive line is one of the best in the country. So any way that this thing gets sliced, I just think that Oregon's going to be able to adapt to the kind of game that Oregon State wants to play. And how many of you know, if you're multiple, especially at the college football level, and you can fight different styles, you're going to be the favorite every single week, regardless of what Vegas thinks. Okay, the hard count will make you the favorite every single week. So I'll leave it at that. At the end of the day, I think Oregon, just like I said, has too much multiple options offensively. I think the defense does enough. I think they're able to commit enough to that run game to force Oregon State to press. At the end of the day, I think Oregon ends up pulling away. I like Oregon to actually win this game 31-24. So it ends up being a little bit closer at the end, but I think Oregon does stretch it, and I think they do end up covering that 3 points. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.